Hi, it's Sheridan Webb here from the Training Designers Club, which is the place to go for practical L&D support to make designing training quicker, easier and less stressful. And today I'm going to try to tackle a question that does come up quite often, even though we don't like to admit it. And it's the question, what should I do if I don't have time to do a proper training needs analysis? Now, we all know as L&D professionals that that is not the ideal situation to find yourself in. And of course, we should be pushing back to do a proper learning needs analysis before we begin any design. But the reality is that it isn't always possible. So what I'm about to tell you will not get you any points in an assignment for your CIPD qualification or anything like that. But if you are a busy L&D professional with your back up against the wall and expectations to deliver something quickly, it might just help you out of a hole. So if we don't have time to do a proper learning needs analysis, you need to understand what is the ultimate aim. So get whoever it is asking you to design some training to articulate the one thing they expect to see that's going to be different as a result of that training. If you do nothing else, get that bashed out, and that is your guiding star. It's also important to ask them what's in and out of scope, because as L&D professionals, we know an awful lot of stuff. We could throw so many things into creating a solution, but we may be completely unrealistic in what it is we're thinking about. So get an understanding from them what's in and out of scope. So are they expecting live training, for example? Are they expecting a one-off event? Are they expecting lots of micro learning events? What is it that they are seeing in their minds? Otherwise, you could go away and suggest something which is never going to get started. Linked to that is the expectations of the key stakeholders. So they will have preferences, they will have an idea of what's going to work. So make sure you understand what these are so that you can at least reflect that in whatever it is you come up with. Take into account the practical realities of your situation. This is something that I always ask whenever I'm meeting with a client. What are your timescales? How long can people take off the job? What's your budget? What technology do people have access to? So really take time to understand these practical limitations that you might have. You know, things around shift patterns. Are people going to be willing to travel? Is that realistic? Is there a day of the week that's going to be better? Although that doesn't necessarily impact on your design, certainly not all of it will, it's important to have that in mind, I think, when we are trying to come up with something that's going to be workable in a short space of time. So to help us with our design, to shortcut the design process, it's also handy to know what already exists or what has been done already, so that we're not reinventing the wheel and wasting everybody's time suggesting something that's already been done. Maybe there are things that we can build on, emphasize or reinforce. So that's always a really important question to ask as well. From that point, I think one of our VIP members used the phrase, you need to create a straw man or a starter for 10. So I would always go away and create a very top line outline. This is the sort of thing I'm thinking of. This is the sort of thing that we could cover. This is how I think it could work. What do you think? Because certainly as an external training provider, I know that quite a lot of time people don't know what they want until they've seen something. And from that point on, they can say, no, that's not what I had in mind, or, oh, yes, that's a really good thing. However, I would like to do this, or, oh, could you also include? So creating that straw man, that starter for 10 is incredibly important. From then, I think what we can do and what I often do, even as an external person, when I am building the costs appropriately, is you can lay the track as you go. So this works incredibly well, especially if you're an internal person. So understanding the starting point, understanding your destination, you haven't got time to do a full training needs analysis. So let's just work on the first step. Let's get that first step done. Let's get it out there. Let's evaluate it. Let's get some feedback on it, and let's use that to shape the next step. So the reality is, in many busy organisations, it makes far more sense to lay the track as you go, because for one thing, that's going to allow you to always make sure that what you're delivering is relevant, but it's also going to allow you to be more agile as well and deliver much more quickly and be a lot more responsive to meet business needs. So the last thing, if you're unable to do a full and proper training needs analysis, and to be totally honest, this day and age, a training needs analysis can take so long. By the time you've actually been through that whole process, presented your findings and come up with your suggestions, the need may have moved on anyway. So it's not always best practice in reality to do a complete and full training needs analysis. Not that I'm suggesting we should ever guess or just do what we think. One thing that you might find useful is to go along to the Training Designers Club website, which is www.trainingdesignersclub.co.uk, and download 21 questions to ask before taking a design brief. It's completely free. You just need to pop your email address in there, and it's actually quite a detailed guide. So it's not about learning needs analysis specifically, but there will be lots of useful questions in there that will allow you to have a really productive conversation with your stakeholders when you don't have a lot of time to do that training needs analysis. So I hope you found that useful. If you want more information, obviously go to the website. I have already mentioned it, or maybe come along and join our VIP community and be amongst a group of generous and supportive peers who are always on hand to help you out with whatever it is you need.